feel like the curtain is like slowly pulling on the stage. Oh, and if you guys at all wanted to follow along in the chat, you totally don't have to, but there is, if you click the link that was on my Facebook page, you can get to the YouTube video, so it has like a live chat window on the side, so up to you.
Okay.
But it looks like we're live, so hello everyone, and welcome to another discussion about Savannah College of Art and Design. Tonight I'm joined by Shadia Amin, Colin Dyer, Kaitlin Edlund, and John Golden, and we're going to talk about what it's like to major in sequential art at SCAD, which is obviously the best major. So this portion of the discussion will actually be focused on Editor's Day and all of that it entails. Lots of portfolio stuff tonight. As always, I have some topics that we're going to go through, and I'm going to leave time for a question and answer session at the end. So if any of you watching have any questions, you can go ahead and post them in the chat on the side of the video. And without further ado, I suppose I'll let my guests introduce themselves. So let's do alphabetical order. So Shadia, what year did you graduate SCAD, and what are you currently working on?
I graduated on 2015, mainly because I was not only a sequential major, but I was an illustration minor, and I'm currently working on a webcomic called The Ottoman's Daughter, with a small animation company called Love Pet Studios. They're very cool, they're very nice, and they asked me to do a comic for them.
And her drawing was the thumbnail for this video, so obviously if that intrigued you, you should check out more. And then next is Colin.
Hi, I'm Colin. Colin Dyer. Graduated in 2013 from Sequential Art. Right now, I'm working as an exhibit illustrator with Answers in Genesis, working on the Ark Encounter, making a giant walkthrough comic book for a big life-size Noah's Ark in Kentucky, and also working on a graphic novel for McFarlane Publishing called Pucker Factor 10 about a Vietnam helicopter pilot in Vietnam, his memoir, and also working on a second graphic novel that we're planning on running on Kickstarter sometime soon. Yeah, that's what I do.
And Kaitlin.
Hi, I'm Kaitlin Edlund. I graduated 2013 from SCAD, and right now I'm working on a webcomic called Were Trucker, about the everyday adventures of a werewolf trucker. And I also work...
Awesome, by the way.
What?
Oh, it's awesome, by the way. I love it.
Thank you.
And John Golden, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, well, I'm John Golden. I graduated SCAD in 2014, and currently the comic project I'm working on is I have a webcomic called Bone Men, and it is, I've been in talks with a few publishers to get it turned into a traditional comic as opposed to a webcomic, or both. We'll see how it pans out. It's about skeletons. You'll love it.
A lot of times nowadays, I think you can do both, which is pretty nice. So
yeah, it seems like a nice
all
setup.
kinds of exposure. But now, moving on to everybody's favorite topic, which is Editor's Day. So if one of you guys could maybe give a little overview about what Editor's Day is for those people who don't know.
I think you should probably just ask someone.
Those goes.
Colin, tell us all about it.
Oh, okay. Editor's Day, it's actually, honestly, looking back, post-SCAD, looking back to SCAD, is a super unique opportunity that most majors don't get an opportunity to have working professionals at the level of the editors SCAD gets for Editor's Day to come in to interview students to look at their work. So it's really unique, first off. But secondly, the premise of Editor's Day is to get, as I said, working professionals that are at active editors for different publishing companies that fit different genres to SCAD to be able to do portfolio reviews and see it sort of as a trial job fair, if you will, for students. And so some people get amazing feedback, some people don't, and some people get really cool opportunities for work in the future. So.
And it does differ a lot from SCAD's general career fair that they have. So, Shadia, why don't you tell us about maybe how it's different? Because you said you went to the career fair all different years.
Yeah, basically, the difference is that career fair tends to focus on every single student at SCAD. So it has happened to me that sometimes I don't get anything related to sequential art at all. It's been like you can get sort of illustration or sort of animation, but never like anything exclusively sequential. And this one has people from the comic industry come and talk to you and tell you specifically what you can do to be better at the industry. But I feel like, yeah, the career fair is not as focused on sequential art students compared to the others, eh?
And it's not just restricted to sequential students either, because I think we've had illustration people join us before either, but I think they might be last on the application list because you do have to apply. So, John Golden, what do you remember about the application process?
The application process is mostly good. It depends on who's running it a particular year. It's sort of you can apply online if you're an alumni. You can also apply as an alumni, but other than that, you just bring in like a physical application and would drop it off in the CEQA building, and then the professors would look at the small portfolio that you included, and depending on what year you'd be, they'd divide it up, or they'd place you with an editor that you requested or not. In like certain amounts of interviews, and the tier list was sort of like alumni and grad students at the top, and then seniors, and then seniority from there down. Like if you were a freshman, you'd be more likely to get like 1 or 2 group interviews as opposed to being an alumni or a senior where you would get like individual interviews with editors and more than one of those in addition to group meetings with an editor, which is when you have like 6 students at once, kind of do like a round robin with portfolios almost.
And what are some of the editors that come to visit? Who did you get to see, Kaitlin, when you did it?
I remember getting to see Jill Beaton. I think that's her name, from Oni Press. I don't know if she still works at Oni anymore, but she gave some really good feedback. And then, man, who else did I see? I saw, I don't remember her name. She was from Viz, and she gave really great feedback too, and like what we could improve on and that sort of thing. I've gotten some editors where they're just like, it's all good, it's fine, and then you don't really get any good feedback. But you get to see some really cool people.
I think it depends on the year that you go, like who shows up, and then also what part of the day you're there. Because definitely, if you're one of the morning reviews, you have way more of the energy from the people, and if you're at the end, they don't have time, man. They don't have time.
Well, it depends if they have coffee.
This is true.
That's true.
I remember I had the first interview of the day with someone from Oni, and she hadn't had coffee, and she prefaced the review with like, all right, I haven't coffee yet, so I'm probably going to be like a little crass. I was like,
I think I had the same situation happen the same year, probably. 'Cause I got roasted.
Definitely. I've had both. I've had them in the beginning of the day, and I got like, so much more of a response from the editors, but then you can tell when you're at the end of the day, especially at the end of the second day, I feel like they're just like, I can't look at another one of these, especially I think when you have so many of the same projects that you're showing as the other students, sometimes that gets old really quick. Did you guys find that in your reviews? Did a lot of people have the same projects to show that you did, or was it pretty original?
I think it was pretty varied. I've never seen like a case where an exact group of students shows the same actual classwork. I think I've never seen that happen because usually it's so scrambled and so varied that it's very unlikely that you get the same person from your same class happening to have the exact same project or a similar thing. Like, because I know sometimes they make students draw, I think, Bartman or something similar. And I mean, I've never seen someone like 2 students present the same Bartman comic. That would be very probably awkward. But I've never seen actually something, and thankfully nothing like that happen.
I did notice one common one that overlapped, and it was I think one class you work from a Batman script, I think it's Gotham by Gaslight. You know what I'm talking about.
Tom Wilde does. Anything Tom Wilde did, it was Batman.
Exactly. It was the Tom Lyle Gotham by Gaslight project, and I didn't do that, but I did have a couple of groups where like a lot of people had those same two Batman pages like drawn differently. But most of the time, well, actually, I can't say that with confidence, but I'd say most of the time that didn't happen. But I can imagine it probably did because a lot of guys put a lot of work into the Batman projects. They love drawing Batman.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a common one, but you do really well on that project if you have that class, because you don't get another way out of it other than doing some killer inking for it. I remember looking at yours a lot, Colin, actually. Both me and Cassie, we took the class around the same time. We're just like, let's just look at Colin's again. He did the bricks really well. How did he do that? Who are some of the other editors that you guys got to see?
Well, there's Marvel and DC. They were there once or twice. They were there a couple times while I was there. Oni, Top Shelf, Cristeros is always there. They're in Atlanta.
always there.
They're always there. Who else? So McFarland was one of them. That was like the wild card my senior year. Man, who else?
Boom.
But yeah,
Oh yeah, Boom Studios.
Boom, there we go.
And I don't think Archaea comes anymore because they've merged with Boom. Am I wrong about that, or?
I know that they have merged. I'm not sure if they do go to Editor's Day. I think they probably are one entity now.
Yeah. They did at one point, because I knew people that had interviews with Archaea, and they really had a good time. So yeah, I guess they just stopped. I guess they stopped as like just a representative of solely Archaea. I guess it's Bloom in general.
Do you think it's I mean, we talked about that it's open to all grades, I guess, of students. Do you think it's mostly if you should wait until you're a senior, or do you guys recommend going beforehand before you really have much of your portfolio together?
I think it's better if you do it as much as you can, because in the end you end up learning. Probably if you go as a senior, you'll still miss like a lot of stuff, like how to handle a portfolio, what can you show or what can you not. Yes, and it's still like, even though it can be like deterring when you're younger, I think it will just help you like build more confidence and know what to do for future years. And as the time passes, you can help to make yourself look more professional.
Yeah.
I didn't go when I was a freshman, but I went sophomore year because people yelled at me for not going from the start. I don't know about you guys.
I think I only went my junior and senior year. And then the year afterwards.
I went sophomore, junior, and senior because I only had one SQL class at the end of my freshman year, and that was my survey of SQL class. So it wasn't even a drawing class; it was a lecture class. So I didn't even know, and I had nothing in my portfolio that was comic related. So I didn't go till sophomore year. But even then, your sophomore year through the SQL program, you don't really have a whole lot to show, sequentially speaking. But I still I think it's super important to go and push through the uncomfortability, like push through the awkwardness of knowing if you're a sophomore, you'll probably get a group review. There's a good chance you'll be there with upperclassmen as well. You just that's fine. Everyone's there to learn. It's not. We all, I think, as I've gotten sort of post SCAD, we're all comic artists. That's all what we want to do. So there's no point in trying to be cutthroat about it. We need to support each other and make each other better because we can all learn from each other. So I think looking back on that experience, it's I wish I would have talked more as a younger student in the program to learn from the older students, to learn what they do, but also just to get to know their work process and stuff, because that was super valuable just to get to know that kind of stuff going into Editor's Day too. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that even if a lot of the attention doesn't go towards you, you can learn so much from the other students that are going to be there.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with all of that.
Yeah.
Smart Ed. Man, you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's scary initially,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think it pays off. And even if you get roasted, like, this is a little morbid to say, but it kind of can work as a scared straight program because, like, having a professor be like, hey, you need to step it up is very different than, like, an editor looking at you and being like, what the heck are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
So it might not build your confidence, but it'll definitely, like, if you need a kick in the pants, it's where to get one.
Yeah. Well, and I would say even to that, like, the great thing is that if you go when you're younger and you're going with students that have been through Editor's Day, you not only learn how, like, the process works with getting critiqued by an editor, but you witness how to hold your composure in those situations. Like, the juniors and the seniors have been through this before a couple of times. Like, they've been railed, or like they know how to deal with it a little bit and let it roll off and just be like, all right, let me take what I can and get better from it. So I think it's valuable for the younger students to see how do you roll with those punches and not just let it crush your heart and make you want to stop. So I think that's also like a part of the experience that's really good.
Because that says a lot about you too. Is not so much well, the quality of your work is very important because that's how you first like have somebody be attracted to what you're doing. But if you can't keep it together, that's like an automatic dismissal of anybody who would want to work with you, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's about being professional too. I think that.
Yeah, definitely.
So it sounds like you guys might have had some heated reviews then. I know that one of mine, like, I totally got torn to shreds with something, but it was all good because it was true. I mean, you get put on the table sometimes, but you're like, everything you're saying does make a lot of sense. It's hurting my feelings right now, but yes, sir, I'll do better next time. Kaitlin and Shadia, did you ever have any reviews that went really, like, super strict?
Not really, but I think the most frustrating was knowing that there was something that I did good in the past that I'm not doing now. Because I had an editor a while ago, like, complimented, like, "Oh, your art looks really dynamic," and this was like two editors days ago. So like 2 years ago, and now they're saying like, "Oh, your flat work looks a little bit odd. You want to make it look more dynamic." So, like, that was just like a kick in the head, and I'm just like, okay, where did I go wrong in here? Like, that was like, I think, the saddest part for me in an editor's day so far.
What about you, Kaitlin? Do you have any war stories?
I think the worst thing that's happened to me was I had an editor tell me that my comic pages were not comics. And I was like, but they are comics. I think they looked a little too much like storyboards to him, which I was an animation major before I was a sequential art major, so that might have rubbed off on the pages.
Oh, I didn't know that, huh?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of have an animation background a little bit.
I think
that's the worst.
I think it's funny. I witnessed a lot of bad reviews, but in Editor's Day never necessarily got ones. I actually had harsher reviews from the professors at SCAD during the year than I ever did at Editor's Day, which, like, I know offhand, like, Tom Lyle pushed the heck out of me while I was in his class, and he knew it. He acknowledged that, like, hey, I'm going to keep pushing you. He's like, because you can take it, and I want to see what I can get out of you. And so, like, he straight up told me that, like, I'm not going to be really nice to you in this. But he was still nice to me, and, like, we still got along perfectly well. But I would say a Tom Lyle review was always way harsher than any review I got from an editor. But I mean, like, I wish I could shake his hand for it and thank him. Like, I gave him a hug on my last day of class with him because I thanked him for it because he made me better. But yeah, editors are people. They're not super scary.
Yeah.
If they don't have their coffee, they're kind of scary. But
yeah. Fair enough. Everything you're saying about Lyle's class is just reminding me more of Viz 2. John and I were together in Larison's Viz 2 class, and I think we both died together, I'm pretty sure.
That is a sure care.
That was rough.
Oh my gosh.
Man. That was I love my Viz 2 class. don't get me wrong, it was way too much work, and it was like a continual like kick you while you're down class. But
That's a good way to put it.
I loved the people in my class were awesome. I know Tom will be, I guess, he's gonna come on here one of these days, and Tom was in the class with me. Man, we had so much fun.
I think the stuff that we did in that class was also one of the proudest things I was able to show. Then later on in that editor's day is like, okay, good, finally we have some like substantial comic pages, but also in Viz 2 showing that you're going to revisit one story over and over again, because I think editors are also really into process in addition to just finished work. So maybe we can talk about that a bit, actually. Do you guys have any tips or suggestions of what you think a good Editor's Day portfolio should consist of?
Usually have the finished work. Not in this is not in every single page. Let's say of a sequence of pages. Have at least one finished page, like the ink's completely very nice, and then one page showing the pencils and the undersketch. That's what I've seen a lot of students do. And then the rest of the finished pages, it's all like a one same story you're showing. Also, some people decide to put one or two turnarounds, but of course not all of the in concept art.
Mm-hmm. I remember, yeah, like having a lot of process work of the same thing and showing the steps of the way, like them wanting to see your inking as a whole separate step was important too. Maybe that surprised me a little bit, because like when I would do something in color and then you bring it to them and you're just like, you can still see the inks there, but I guess it can look totally different with or without color. Colin's pointing.
Yeah, it actually does. Especially in my comics, since I'm not the one coloring it, my art looks so much different after it's colored than before. So it's good to have like, if you haven't colored work, just show how they look separate, just because it can the color can just make everything so much different.
Kaitlin, what do you think makes a good portfolio? I hope you say lots of butts, because you always draw the best butts.
Yes, definitely lots of butts. Butts make a good portfolio. One thing I found is definitely make sure most of it is comic pages. Editors did not really seem to take well to stuff that wasn't comic pages when I did portfolio reviews. Like, if you drew like a cover or something for a comic, they didn't really tend to enjoy that as much as they did pages, because pages show how you tell story and that sort of thing, and that's what they want to see. So that would be my suggestion.
Very true.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you guys have any other suggestions of what you think should be in a good portfolio? John, what are your words of wisdom?
Well, I tried a lot of different stuff throughout my editor's day. It was actually a pretty good trial and error process. And what worked best for me was just to have as much of a concentrated thing. That's a oxymoron, but like as much of one finished product as you can. Like a closed story that, like, what worked best for me is I had a 4-page story from Viz 2. And that worked perfectly because it was a finished product. They could see what it would look like when it was done, and they could also see sort of a sample of a longer-term storytelling thing. Because what I had the worst luck with was with a bunch of like unrelated sequential pages. Because like having one comic page is, it's one thing. Like you can get a lot from looking at someone's one comic page, but if you're looking at 2 or 3 that are sequential, the editor can get a lot more out of it. And like, because I think one of the most important things that they look at, just eyeballing it from what I think they look for, is like how bulletproof the narrative is without being told what's going on. So if you had 4 pages and say they weren't lettered, can they go through these and figure out what's going on? Because the thing that like consistently, once I got a good portfolio together, that I would hear editors say is, even though there are no words here, I can tell what's going on, and that's great. Like just straight up, like just like I know what's going on. I don't need it. So this, because I think the storytelling is a significant part of it, as opposed to the the polish of the craft. So you can have process in there. I'm not like saying that's a bad idea, but in my experience, like just having like two 4-page comics, or like one 8-page one, something small that they can get what they need immediately, but it's like as polished as you can make it. That's what worked for me.
Yeah, I agree like 100% with John, and even like to that point of having a sort of a self-contained story, is they want to see how your narrative works, but they also want to see how consistent are you over a course of X amount of pages. Like they want to know that you can keep your like characters on key, and they want to know that you can keep a consistent level of quality throughout all of your pages. And I think on top of that is something to also have in the portfolio in that self-contained story is make sure you have a wide variety of quiet scenes and loud scenes. Like have action shots, that's fine, but also have a conversation, because the majority of what you draw in comic books are all conversation. It's basically talking heads, but how do you make talking heads interesting? So like they want to see how do you make talking heads interesting, because the writers really like to write. So I think that's also super important to have, is show the variety, but show the consistency. So.
That's a good point. Oh, and then Colin, I was wondering, since you probably among us have the most traditionally mainstream comic style, did that deter you from meeting with any of the other editors? Because I know you can put a priority list when you apply of like, I would love to see Marvel, but I don't really want to see Boom Studios, or maybe I want to go see Viz Media, but I don't want to see Oni Press. Yeah, did that make you feel like maybe there were only 2 or 3 people that you wanted to see?
Yeah, it's actually that's like a really fun question, because at the time, it was totally a bummer. So like, especially my senior year, since I like graduated early and I was going to come back to Savannah for Editor's Day, and then getting the announcement list that like no mainstream people are there. It's like, and so I'm so bummed, like I'm graduated, I'm done, I don't have school anymore, and none of the people I want to see are there. But like it took me basically like kind of have to get over myself and just acknowledge that like these people all are professionals in this form of storytelling, and like it's selfish of me to think that the mainstream is the only way, like a mainstream editor is going to be the one who can give me tips, and that's just not true. And so once I was kind of able to get over that hump, I actually really just appreciated it. Like I think I met with Chris Staros each time I was at Editor's Day for Top Shelf. Like I met with him every year. It was kind of cool because he was so far on the other end of the spectrum for what I did and what I was expecting to do, that it was kind of cool to hear his critique, because it was stuff I would have never thought of. Because I was only thinking in like, how do you tell a story for a mainstream audience? And he was just like, well, Top Shelf does stuff like we do walk of life stuff, we do like all kinds of things. Like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like, you should, like, if you did this, like, we do this way, and it'll just make more sense that way. So I think it was really valuable, and I wish at the time I appreciated it as much as I should have, because they were giving me some super awesome tips that I've incorporated now. But I was like, man, like, Colin, SCAD Colin, like, get over yourself, man. Like, so I think it's, don't get discouraged when the editors that you want aren't there, because I know I would get discouraged, and ultimately, like I said, like sequential art and comics world, like this is a big sandbox. Like we need to play together, because we all love the same kind of stuff. Like let's play together and have fun with it. So.
Yeah, I didn't think about how editor who preference of storytelling could bring a unique perspective to what you're doing. Because yeah, if you're only doing something that's really slice of life, but then you meet with somebody who only deals with action comics, that might be their biggest comment. Is just like make things more interesting, make things more fast paced. Or if on the opposite side where you have something where you've only done maybe traditional superhero comics, and then they're like, yeah, but think more about like the slow pacing or the emotion in the scenes and the character relationships. I didn't think about that, but that could be good. I'm lucky enough to have always gotten who I wanted, so I feel like a brat, but it worked out.
I did. I got who I wanted. Like, I always got the people I wanted, but it was like who I wanted was Marvel and DC all the time. But, yeah.
What about the rest of you guys? Did you ever feel like same thing, like you're not going to gel well with the editor just because it's a totally different style than what you're working in?
Yeah, it actually happened to me because I got selected to do an interview by Dark Horse, and it's like a whole the people white Dark Horse who like want to see my art, and it was like the first one I got. So it was just such a weird, just a bit weird for me because I mean I do love dark colors comics, but I don't feel like my style will fit it. So it was just kind of like a weird experience, contrast for me, but it was good and I enjoyed a lot the critique I got from it. So it's always good to have just another angle from another side of the industry.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's a fair song.
John, what about you?
I think I had my scariest fit with that the first time I went, because when I was first at SCAD, I kind of developed a lot while I was there, and my stuff was like real cartoony when I was first there, which is a nice way of saying I didn't know anatomy, but when I signed up for everything, I just kind of did like a spray and pray because I was like, I'm doing this last minute. I made my own comic pages for it, and I like blew them up too. I like printed out smaller ones big, and I was like, hey, they'll believe this. That was the year that like Marvel, DC, Vertigo, like all the scariest people were there, and I got Marvel, DC, Vertigo, Dark Horse. I got all the terrifying people on these group reviews. And that was really scary initially, but it's like Shadia said, like these guys are open-minded and they understand what you're working with, and that won't like hinder their critique from being any less professional. Like even the Vertigo guy, which was like the opposite of what I was drawing at the time. He's the first guy I had, and I was terrified in there. I was the only sophomore. It was like all seniors, and he was a nice guy. Like the scariest one wound up being Marvel, but that was just because I went right after Steve Beach.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so
I might bring up his stuff right
and
now.
then, like, and you're hired. And then she was like, and now yours, and pointed at me. And I had this big printed out pencil drawing of like a buddy cop comic that I had just made up, and I like slid it towards her like, do I also give you $20 to skip me? Cause, but yeah, as previously stated, it's not that scary, and you know, it doesn't matter where critique comes from as long as it's helpful.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen some harsh critiques, but I don't think I ever saw any editor like disagree with somebody's style, you know, or like critique them solely based on that. They would point out things with storytelling or issues with actual drawing, but it was never just like, what are you doing here, kiddo? Go back to your anime. Well, maybe that, but
yeah, that's different.
nothing else. Do you guys have any do's and don'ts of Editor's Day? I feel like we all know some major don'ts.
Oh.
Don't argue with the editor. Don't be Danny defensive. I mean, that's the most obvious one. Like if someone's like, "Hey, you Jack, like this arm is wrong," don't be like, "No, it's the style," because then it's just like, "Well, I guess I'm done reviewing you." Yeah, that's like, oof.
Also, do wait for your turn. I had to deal with in 2 group interviews where I had a student, there was a student interrupting and commenting on everyone's work and not letting the editor comment. And it's just like, stay quiet and only speak when you're asked something. Oh, don't be rude. Also, try to have, I do recommend, and this is just personal experience, have both physical and digital portfolio, just because you don't know which one can fail to you sometimes. The physical can get something, it can be complicated having to like rotate the paper if your portfolio is constantly having like either vertical or horizontal works. But so I like, okay, I'm gonna switch to digital. But then my tablet started glitching on me in the middle of an interview, and this was actually my most recent Editor's Day, so it was a bit embarrassing. So it's always recommended having both. And also, you don't have to do it. This is something I like to do. Having a small leaf behind never hurts. What I did in my last one was a packet of postcards, all with different types of work that I've done, and just gave it to them. Just very nice, very tiny, and it's always nice for them to have one, just so they can remember you better.
Definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that. I feel like that wasn't talked enough about. Maybe it'd be time, even if you're like a freshman or a sophomore, to start thinking of some branding and having a business card of sorts. Even if it's just like to your Tumblr, just a place that they can look for stuff.
Yeah, having a takeaway is really good. It's a really good thing to just have. It's more memorable.
Colin, do you have any do's and don'ts? Anything that you saw that you were just like unforgivable?
Don't try to pitch something to an editor at Editor's Day. I actually did witness that at a group review my sophomore year. It was really uncomfortable for everyone, and you could see like how uncomfortable the editor was. They're like, okay, like trying to move on, but this person was still talking. It was so uncomfortable. So don't do that. Do think about some questions beforehand, just maybe general questions that you might be curious about, because obviously, like, you can't predict the conversation or how the review is going to go, but you can have some questions in your back pocket just to keep a dialogue going, because it's always good to have it less of the editor talking at you and more of it you two talking in a conversation. So I always say that kind of works doubly, because then you become more memorable. If you've it showcases your personality, and so much of what we do is like we focus on the objective portfolio, but like half the time it's like, do you want to work with this person at all? Or, like, are they fun? Are they fun to work with? And I think that's a really important thing. And I know I went through had the problem of getting too much in my head and I don't know what to say. I'm gonna be like a blubbering idiot. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna embarrass myself, but eventually, at one point, you're just like, well, I just have to talk, because if I don't talk, then they won't know who I am, and they'll never remember me. So it's like you kind of have to take the risk, but it's not really a risk, because like we said, they're not horrible people. Like, they're not going to cut you and leave you bleeding on the floor in, well, not Norris anymore, but they're not gonna do that. Like, they're nice people, and they want to help you. Like, that's what they're there for, is to help you. So.
I think it goes without saying, too, that if you're worried that you're like too much of a dork to go to something professional like this, you're going to a comics review, so chill out. Like, I'm pretty sure the editors are just as nerdy as you. Yeah. It's okay.
Sandbox. We're all in the sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. John, do you have any horror stories? Any do's and don'ts?
The only one that really comes to mind was, I didn't actually experience this in a review, but it was my my first time doing it, and some gentleman thought it would be cool to wear a T-shirt and then put this 8-bit tie on, like it was a tie, like he clipped it onto his shirt and he wore that, and it's like you guys just said, it's like, don't be afraid to be dorky. They're dorks too, but don't make another dork want to shove you into a locker. Like, go as a human being. Like, don't do anything stupid. Like consider your appearance. Consider like this is professional. Like, you're not gonna, don't show up with a joke book and a frickin' spray water flower. Like, you're going as a professional regardless of how nerdy it is. And be polite, be professional. It's it's standard stuff. Like, it's still an interview.
Yeah, it's not a Comic-Con.
Yeah. And if it is Comic-Con, it's still a little embarrassing when you show up like that. So,
you have to watch out for the comics, like the sequential jocks. You have to watch out for the sequential jocks, like Colin, who's going to shove you in a locker and take your lunch
I'll
money.
help him. I'll help him do us early.
I'm a huge dork. I dressed as Captain America for my wedding.
Oh,
that is true.
Wait, weren't you like the Captain America in the sequel department once that wore like a duct tape Captain America?
That was me. Yeah.
Oh my God, I like him.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That was a huge dork. Still am. Great.
But I think also a good advice. Also, I forgot about this one, and this one I had to witness. Was don't get discouraged if an editor is actually particularly harsh on a thing of your art, and then just decide like, okay, I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna quit and not do the other interviews, because first of all, the teacher who took his time out to put you in every schedule is not gonna appreciate that, especially if you decide to like leave and not even tell him like, hey, I gotta cancel, just because it's just rude. And someone else is gonna take that chance, and who knows, maybe there's something there that you could have missed. Because that I actually saw this. There was a student who, after I guess a particularly harsh critique, even just go out of his way to say he was just not even gonna bother go to the other editors just after one interview. And I actually ended up taking like one of his slots, and it was a great interview for me. And just because an editor doesn't like one particular thing doesn't mean the rest of the editors are gonna hate it. Because they're still like we're all people. Everyone has a different preference, so what doesn't go with a person might go really well with the other one. So it's just taking everything with a grain of salt and see where you can improve.
I'm glad you mentioned, though, being able to take another person's slot if they don't show up, because that is definitely worth mentioning. They do have, in the group reviews, like a block of people that will all meet together, but sometimes people can't make it for one reason or another. Either, they had something else come up, or, I guess they decide not to go any of their other reviews. So I would say, especially the second day of reviews, you're very likely to find some open spaces, so just hang around an extra hour, bring your homework with you, just like work on your sketchbook stuff outside the door, and you can wait and possibly get an opening with an editor, because that's worked for me twice. I don't know if you guys ever had that, but it was worthwhile to stick around.
Yeah, it actually worked for me that one time.
Yeah, I did it as well one time. I think it was my sophomore year. But I think it's actually a really, really awesome point, too, is to know, like, the comics world is super subjective. Like, every person is different, and what each editor is looking for at that exact moment in time is going to change based on, who's writing what the trends are with each publisher. So to not get too discouraged if someone is, like, not a fan of this, because, like, that editor of that company might not be a fan, but a different editor at that same company might actually love your stuff. And so it's just to understand, like, everything is super subjective in this little world that we like to work in, and to just, like, to not let that personally hurt you, but just to know, like, just keep doing what you do, because someone will like it and someone will want it.
That's true. I can even think about stuff that I wasn't going to originally include in my portfolio because I'm like, oh, I don't think this is going to fit with this editor, or like trying to tailor it too much to one person I wanted to see but not thinking of anybody else. But, sometimes I tuck some stuff in the back, and then they'd find it anyway and like it. Oh, that might be my tip, actually, is so a lot of the teachers will encourage you to keep it down to, like, maybe, what did they say, 15 pieces in a single portfolio. But nothing's stopping you from tucking stuff in the way, way back. So if they, like in one of my reviews where I, only had 15, they thumb through it, like, in seconds, and then they're like, oh, is that it? And they shut it and moved on. Like, so you can have some stuff. The worst thing that happens is they don't have enough time to get to other things in the back, but at least it's there if they want to thumb through the rest of the thing. I don't know. With physical and digital portfolios, like you were bringing up, Shadia, you had some good points about, things timing out on electronic devices. I don't know if any of you guys had preferences either way, if you always want to bring something traditional or always want to bring something digital. Kaitlin, what about you?
I always brought traditional pages and stuff like that to my portfolio reviews, but I actually had a professor comment on my work in Pt2 and told me to stop drawing digitally because drawing digitally flattened my work out. So I kind of just stuck to doing traditional stuff up until this year when I started drawing digitally again. But I wouldn't let that discourage you. If you're good at drawing digitally, then take a digital portfolio in, because I think the digital portfolio works a lot better than lugging around like a big 11x17 portfolio from place to place and stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't want to have to like arrange all the papers and stuff, but some people have really sharp looking things. I don't know.
The paper.
What do you usually bring?
I've dabbled in both. I think I borrowed Shadia's tablet
Yeah,
one
you
year.
borrowed my tablet.
I've tried a few different things, though I cheat a little bit with a traditional one because the comic I've been working on now has been a significantly smaller format. I've been working on 9x12, so it's a smaller portfolio. But I brought that and an 11x17, and I brought an 11x17 and digital, and I brought digital and 9x12. And in the grand scheme of things, it's just it's kind of like your preference. Like if you have something really that looks really nice on 11x17, bring it like that. But like if you want to scale it down and bring it on a little PDF, like, and you think that will be fine, go for it. There's really no limitations. Like even if you work digitally, you can print something out and stick it in a portfolio. And even if you work traditionally, you can scan it and put it on a tablet. Like the world is your oyster. I've tried it all and it's all fine.
And then what about you, Colin?
I'm generally always traditional. I always have a backpack or a bag, and I'm constantly lugging things around, so I don't really mind carrying the 11x17. Plus, everything I just only work at that size, and I only work really. All my inks are traditional and stuff like that, so I'd rather show a tangible page as opposed to a scan of the page. But that's just me. Like I've always been rooted in that traditional aspect, and if it means I gotta lug the big old portfolio around, like I'm willing to do it just because that's the method I choose. But I do agree with John. Like it's your preference. If you draw on the smaller format and you do digital and you print it out, like just whatever it is, full size and however it looks best, present your best work, however that may be. And I just know for me, like my best work is traditional, so I'm just gonna take that. But I agree. Like we're at a point in this, especially in the world of comics, with the digital comics having just as much merit now with traditional comics, that there's no standard anymore of how you show it because they're both legitimate and they're both super viable. So yeah, I think it's personal preference really.
Personal preference, and then I think it is huge to just consider, think about your editor when you're putting it together, not just what they might like to see, but how they actually have to interact with whatever you bring. Because if you do digital and you bring it in a tablet, you can store a lot of stuff on there, which is great, but you have to make sure that all they have to do is just swipe across. They don't want to dig around through the folders. They don't want to be in, unfortunately, a format that they're not familiar with, so they're probably going to want to look at it on an iPad or like one of the Nexus 7 tablets, something super common. I've seen people bring in their laptops too, and that ended up being okay, but it's all about the less the editor has to do, the better. And same is said with the physical portfolios too, because if you have like a bunch of paintings that are curling in and out of the portfolio and stuff doesn't fit, and then you have another page and everything is loose and it spills out, like that is a hot mess and it takes up a lot of time. And you really only have 5 minutes. Even if you are in a group review that lasts an hour, you only get so much of their attention. So
you know what I'm fighting
that's my 2 cents. Yeah. With the reviews though, did you guys find that you were more did you like being in a group review more, or did you prefer the one-on-one even though it's not very long?
I think it really depends because you can get good things of both. Because in the one-on-one, of course, it's going to be one-on-one, and the editor has a bit more time to dedicate to you. But in the other one, I feel like I learn a lot, not only for what in the group one. I not only feel like I learn from what the editor tells me, but I learn watching others' portfolio. What do they have? What do they get? What they're doing wrong, so I can just make it right in my own words. And it's just good to see the feedback because maybe some advice that I didn't get, someone else will get, and now I'll just also get it by default.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I really enjoyed
you guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kaitlin.
I enjoyed group reviews more than I did one-on-one with the editors because I'm so shy that I feel more comfortable being in a group review with people and having other people there with the editor. Even though the editor's not going to bite your head off, it's just more comfortable for me having other people. That, and you can learn from other people's portfolios and that sort of thing. So I think there's more there to learn.
Yeah, there's something like just sitting there in silence while they're thumbing through your pages and not speaking with you. If you're alone, you're kind of like, oh, okay, here we go. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd almost say, like, that's kind of the point of the group reviews, is like to see what works and what doesn't. Because that's what I got out of it. Because I got more group reviews when I was, I think everybody gets more group reviews when you're less prioritized. You get put in those, and I think that's really helpful because, like, it kind of preps you for a better level of polish when you finally do get that one-on-one review. Because I mean, I like them both, but by the time I was, this is gonna make me sound a little pretentious, but like by the time I was a senior, I wasn't the guy that was getting anything out of the group reviews. Like, I was the guy that was like I was ready for the one-on-one review. So whenever I was in a group review, like the editor would go through it and be like bada bing and say all the things that he liked about it, and then I would have to sit there and listen to all the other kids. Well, I'm being very dramatic, but like if they got reamed on something, like I would be the point of reference. So I think socially it's good no matter when. It's better. It's more beneficial for you when you're younger and you want to learn more stuff. But by the time I was senior graduating, the one-on-one reviews benefited me way more because like that's when people hand you business cards. Like that's when people are like, hey, send me an email, because they have time to look at you and tell you like, this is great, or like work on these things and get back to me. And like it's much more personal. Like they shake your hand at the end and then you leave and then that's it. It's just you. And I think that's more like when you're going into the industry that benefits you more, as opposed to when you're learning, the group ones benefit you more. They always benefit somebody. Unless you get roasted in a one-on-one review. Then you're just roasted.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I actually really liked one-on-one reviews because I liked approaching it as if it was a conversation. So going in and like opening up the dialogue and trying to not be uncomfortably quiet and just like sitting, but like also trying to ask them like what are they seeing, and like for me, and it's probably also because like I was probably a little nervous and so I just wouldn't shut up. But like just like trying to generally just say like, hey, how you doing? Like, thanks for coming. This is really awesome that you guys do this for us. And like, yeah, I wanted to show you some of my stuff. And it's so trying to keep it a little more lighthearted was kind of my strategy. But I always had a good time because if I could get more of a personal conversation and out of it, that felt better than just being like, here's my stuff. And then I sit, and I wait, and then like in the 3 minutes they've assessed, and then they give me 1 minute of just critical feedback, and then I'm done. Like, well, I'd kind of rather just like chat a little bit because again, like I always approach this is that it's good for them to see your personality. It's good for them to see how you are, who you are. I think it's Lyle who says this. I don't remember which professor said it, but like there are 3 things that will help you make it in the industry. Like if you're good, if you're fast, and if you're good to work with, and you need to be 2 of those 3.
Yeah,
There's 2 of those 3. And I think that the great thing about Editor's Day is that you show your work, you show how good it is, but at no point have you shown how fast you are, and so the only opportunity you have is to show how personable you are. And so I think that's a great opportunity to be able to showcase the second part of those 3. So that's something that I always try to do is make it personal. Like let them know who you are when you're there.
Yeah, even if it's something super dorky that you're memorized for, because this wasn't for Editor's Day, but it was for Comics Art Forum, which is another event that they do during the year sometimes. I don't think they've done it this year, but anyway, more people come to visit SCAD and you get to have a portfolio review. But I don't know if you guys remember when Ben Caldwell came to visit I was really excited, like just as a sophomore, that I was going to have a review with him because I love his stuff. And so I posted about it on Twitter. It's just like, hashtag SCAD, so excited, gonna pee my pants because I'm so excited to talk to Ben Caldwell. He, the night before he came to SCAD, was going through like the SCAD tag to make sure. He's just like, oh, I wonder if there's anything I should know that's going on during this time, or if I've talked about anything before when I visited at SCAD. But he found my tweet, and then he posted on his blog. He's just like, yeah, guys, I'm really excited for you all to see me at SCAD. I'm going to give some good portfolios, especially to you, Lisa, who pees her pants. And I was like, so I just died. And then, like, I go in there, and he recognizes me, and I'm just like, here we go. But he remembered me. I guess that's good. The blonde girl who pees her pants. It's my goal in life. I'm glad you brought up, Colin, the 3 things that you have to pick from, because that's something that I've thought about a lot, and I'm kind of curious, for you guys, what are the ones that you think are the most important, or the ones that you ended up being? Because I think I really want to be on time with everything, and I want to make sure I'm easy to work with, but consequently then I don't think my work is as good as it could be, because I gab a lot and I don't work. What about you guys? What's more important to you? Being on time, being personable, easy to work with, or being really good?
Yeah, high quality, yeah.
I think also being nice to work with, because if there's going to be a point that if you're just very hard to work with, nobody will just care about how good or fast you are, because you're horrible to work with. And I think that just your personality matters a lot on it, because if you're just become a very unlikable person, then you're just slowly ruining yourself, unless you're a miracle man, which rarely any of us are.
Yeah, I think the pivotal point, the starting point, I think, for me, that I think is probably the most important in this day and age, is the being good to work with, which I always kind of lump in being nice. Because, if people like you, then the other one doesn't matter, because they're going to like you. So if you're slow and they like you, they're going to, they'll be like, this guy's, he's a good guy, right? So they're going to make exceptions for you. But if you're a nice guy and you're fast and your stuff's not as good, they're going to be like, he's not the, not the best, she's not the best, but, he's, he produces so much. Because if they have the starting point of they like you, I think that helps a lot. Because most of the guys that are on the other two, they are fast and good, but they're kind of jagglers, I feel like their time has sort of come. All the guys I know like that are way older guys. They're jaded and grouchy, and that's why that's okay. And they've been doing it forever. Because in this day and age, if you're being a jerk and you're those two things, it's going to be on Twitter that you're a jerk. It's going to be on Tumblr that you're a jerk. It's going to be on Facebook and YouTube and everything that you're a jerk. And then people are just not going to want anything to do with you, regardless. But that's just my 2 cents. I think the age of being a mean dude or a mean chick that or anything in between that is really, really good is kind of they're still gonna be mad. People don't like Frank Miller as much as they used to because he's crazy now. But he had his heyday. It's kind of like that. At least that's my opinion on the situation.
No, that's an excellent point. I didn't even think about that, but it's totally true. It doesn't matter. People will, at the drop of a hat now dismiss somebody they've enjoyed their work their whole life, because it's just wow, you're actually a really rotten person. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some of those experiences working with the comic shop that I work at conventions and stuff like that. Sometimes some of those older artists can be a little awful. Yeah. But yeah, I have to say, definitely personality, having a really sweet personality and that sort of thing definitely helps. I had a friend that was working with Boom that was having some issues with the deadline, and he's so friendly. He's one of the friendliest people you ever meet, and I think that helped a lot with the whole deadline thing on his project. So if you're nice and you're kind of cutting it a little bit on the deadline, they'll help work with you.
You just gotta bat your eyes their way, right?
Yeah. Send a couple smooches.
What about you, Colin? Obviously, you're not interested in being a people person at all, right?
Clearly, no. I dislike people. No. You know, it's interesting. It's funny. This principle has sort of shifted depending on who I'm working with. Because I've noticed it not like a lot in my life, like how I should operate with people, but I've also found it to be something I apply with people I work with clients I work with, or like with companies I'm working with. Like, oh, I also need to evaluate them. Like, do they produce good work? Or are they asking good questions of me and like challenging me? Are they fast? Especially if it's like a digital freelance thing, or even if I'm actually at the company itself. Like, do they communicate well? Are they fast in feedback? Are they fast in answering my questions and getting things out? And are they personable? Like, are they willing to play ball? Like, are they fun to work with? It's been interesting, like, flipping that principle on its head and looking outward with other people as well, because I've had places I've been working and been like, I don't want to work here anymore because like you definitely don't fit these criteria, and like I'm willing to play ball, but if you guys aren't going to reciprocate, like I don't know if this can happen. So in those situations, it's like personality and being approachable and stuff like that actually gets lessened, and really my priority is do good work but get it done quick and like get out of the situation. So when it's projects I like, with people I like, it's definitely going to be about good work and personality, because I want that to be a cooperative project, something that we can work together on. But there are definitely those times you're just like, all right, the personality is out the window. Like, I got to get this done and get it out of here so I can move on. So.
Yeah, also it doesn't matter how many like smiley faces and emojis you put in an email. Like when you get something back from a client, I don't know if it's just me, it always sounds like so icy. Just like they could actually mean, "Oh, good, you got it done on time. Thank you so much." But it'll come across as, "Oh, good, you got it done on time. Thank you so much." And you're like, "What did I do?" Do you even like it?
It happens.
Especially the ... That one always kills me. To like, great. And you're like, "What's that mean?" Okay, I have one more question that I'll ask you guys, and then we have a question in the Q&A. So, yeah, if anybody else watching in the chat has any questions to ask, you can post them there, and we will get answering them. But the grand finale, otherwise, is for Editor's Day, what is your biggest praise of how it is set up? And then if you have a big criticism of it, what is that, and what would you like to see differently in the future? Just let loose, just like say the whole thing's trash.
Get rid of it. No.
Get rid of it. Don't do it. Just go to career fairs. Stand in line for a million hours.
Oh,
bring back resumes.
Yeah, resumes. I think, like I said, sort of at the beginning, like it's a really unique experience that not many, especially in a creative field, outside of maybe like a film festival, this is really the only chance that when you are in such a niche field that you have an opportunity to talk with someone on such a small scale, whether it's like a group review or a personal review, and have that direct contact. That's really rare. Because even if like you can have that at a comic convention, like look at the amount of people that are at a con, and then divide that by the amount of people that are also looking for work that are trying to do the exact same thing you're doing. And so you amplify that fatigue of whoever's there because they have to sit through you times 4,000 people doing the same thing. So it's a really, really cool experience that SCAD allows this to happen and that they like support it. And I think that the only thing that I wish would happen, the only thing, I guess my only gripe would be that I would have loved for the sequential department to take it upon themselves to help like teach the students what the next steps are. Like, you've been given this opportunity and you've gotten this critique and you've learned stuff. Now what do you do with it? I think that's something that I never knew what to do next. It's like, oh, I had this really awesome opportunity. It's like, oh, they gave me their card. They want me to contact them. What do I do now? Like, do I contact them? And if they want me, what do I do? I'm still a student. Like, how does this work? I can't take full time. So I think it would just be nice to have some sort of advising on to like prepping you to leave, and it's like, this is what you've been given, this is how you can go about this, and if you don't want to listen to us, that's fine, but here's some advice going forward. That's probably what I would have liked to see. So
I think that's a good suggestion, yeah, because you don't really know what do you do after that? Where do you go? Kaitlin, I know you're itching to let loose.
I think that's probably one of the best opportunities I've ever had to talk to editors, honestly. And it's great. The best part about it is you can reserve a spot with the editor. I went to TCAF last month, and they had the same kind of thing going on where you could get portfolio reviews with editors, but you had to stand in a really long line. And it's just not really that great to have to stand in lines like that. Whereas this, you have your spot and you're going to be there at that time with the editor. And I mean, I just really dug Editor's Day. I thought it was great, and I miss it.
That's a good point. I mean, same thing like I said with the career fair, where you could spend the better part of the day just meeting with one person after you've stood in line forever. But at least with Editor's Day, you know that you have a slot, so you can, of course, be on time and not let everybody wait. But you can see 3 people during the day and not have to stand forever, so it's reason enough.
Yeah.
What about you, John?
Okay.
Those won't get you out of it this time. Just let the hate out.
Honestly, at this point, it's redundant for me to say, but like, I genuinely believe that Editor's Day is like one of the most useful tools that SCAD has. Like, I mean, like out of everybody, because I mean, other majors will bring like some professional down to do a talk, but like this is like effectively like actual experience. Like you're like kind of, you have this opportunity to experience what it is like to talk to a real editor, and that just like blows my mind that we can do that. It's like, that's like the best tool you can come up with. Like, the only thing that I could possibly say that I would want more is like, literally, I want more. Like, I wish the kids had, you know, more time with the editors. Like, they were there for longer, but like, you know, that might not be feasible. You know, Paula Waltz doesn't have that much money. But
and then
yeah,
my
like,
channel gets shut down.
Yeah, no.
Break into my room. But no, yeah, it's honestly like one of the most useful tools. Like, just don't skip it, guys. Do it. Yeah, like my only thing is just like I wish we could have more of it, because it's just so useful, and I feel like it kind of fills in a lot of blanks that like professors can't fill in, not due to like incompetence or anything, but it's just like they don't really get the opportunity to tell you what it's like to really work with an editor. Like, that's unique, as previously stated. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great.
And Shadia, what do you think?
Well, everyone pretty much said what I wanted to say, but yeah, it's an amazing tool. I think it helps much more, especially for C+ students and also other students who wants to like get review from editors. I feel like it has helped me personally more than it has any career fair, because it's not you lining up. It's people just take their time. You have the schedule. They tell you what you need to do, and you get it from several points of view, but from the same industry. Like, in comparison to the career fair, it's just like, yeah, I get a point of view from this animation department, and then I get a point of view from this video game department, and then I get a point of view from this illustration department. But they're all going to be looking for way different things compared to like the small different things that the same industry wants. So it's just better feedback and just more focused feedback you get from the editors. I do wish, also like John said, we have more time and the editors stay there for longer. But maybe they can. They're probably too busy. But I also wish. I don't know if they do it, but have maybe a small pre-portfolio workout or workshop to have maybe like the week before, and just want to go get like a quick 5 minute revision of the portfolio, say like, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, do this, do that. These are the basics of a portfolio. That would be cool. Already just like have a big pile of handouts to get the students like how to prepare for your portfolio. Just like put it like next to the stack of the applications or something.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to have more time with the editors, but they wouldn't be able to squeeze as many people in. Well, I suppose technically you can have some more time with them, right? After Editor's Day is over, you go down to McDonough's and you get drunk and do karaoke.
I'm very good at it at this point.
I should just bring up the video of you and then John Lowe just doing karaoke, screaming, my favorite.
Religious experience.
Yeah, it's a
bummed I missed that. Cool. That answers all my questions. I think we do have some in the chat, though, so these are up for anybody. Someone wants to know the age-old question, is art school, do you think that it was worth it to go? Was it worth your time? And they're also trying to decide between if they want to study animation or illustration. So actually, how do we convince this person to be a sequential major instead? I think we should.
I mean, that would be a good decision.
First of all, and this is for someone who took illustration minor, please, illustration people, don't kill me or hate me. But I feel like the sequential department will teach you better just how to do better art. Because the illustration department is very, we don't want to interrupt your personal style, but at the same time, I feel like they don't teach you the basic rules of anatomy or perspective, that they don't teach you just for the sake of not interrupting your personal style. Meanwhile, in the SECO department, Lyle used to force me to draw anatomically correct, and it was very hard for me, but it helped me have a better defined art style. They'll force you to do it the correct way, so then how you know how to break the rules. So it doesn't matter how stylized you look, it will still look better, and then you can just move on to do your digital art and your illustration, because even though there are required comic classes, there are classes in the SECO department that they don't require you to exactly do comics, like data portfolio or character or conceptual illustration. They don't require you to do specifically a comic. So you can just learn a lot from the SECO department. And I think college was honestly a very good chance for me. I learned a lot, and this is for someone who got from one country to another. It opened a big point of view, how other cultures work. It helped me a lot with my art. It just helped me a lot. Like, I know college is not for everyone, but still, like, getting that extra help from people who got into the industry really helped, because all of the SCAD teachers work in the campus that they teach. For example, Lyle, he used to work at Marvel. He'll do superhero comics. He'll like teach you how to draw the traditional comic industry way. Or Duncan, who used to specialize in mini comics, so he makes you do the mini comics class. So it just really varies. All the teachers know what they're doing because it's the campus they focus on. So I do recommend college. I know it's not for everyone, but I will not say don't try it. I just say give it a try and just see if it's your thing.
Well said. I think that covers it. Do you guys have anything to add?
Well, as somebody that was in the animation department for a while, I would definitely, if you want to do animation, if you're just determined to do animation, definitely take some sequel classes, because animation doesn't really cover basic drawing skills or like anatomy and stuff like that. We just went straight into animating, and there were some people that they needed some anatomy help and some stuff like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard that. So.
Yeah. I think that I would say, like, for SCAD or college in general, like, I value it a lot, but I also think that with SCAD and some classes in the SQL department, so much of it is determined on what you're willing to put in, and because that's what you're going to get out of it. So if you if you do push yourself and you kind of allow yourself to get your butt kicked a little bit, you're gonna come out of that school with all of the necessary tools to set you up to kickstart you into your career. Like, it's gonna hurt and it's gonna be a little painful at times, but you're gonna learn a ton. And I don't know, I mean, I just know my perspective. Your best work is not going to come while you're at SCAD, but it's going to be everything you learned there is what's going to produce your best work outside of SCAD. That's what I've noticed. And so I think that, yes, it was super valuable. And I chose SCAD because of Sequential, because it was like one of, 5 schools in the nation that does it. So I went from Ohio to Georgia to go to that school, not because I love gnats, mosquitoes, and humidity, but
it's the Midwest.
Yeah, Midwest pride. But yeah, so I think it's all about what you put into it, and take hard classes. Like, make it hard on yourself because you'll be better. Like, my favorite class was speed sketching. It was the hardest class. It's so hard to take because you're just like, what, 400 1-minute gestures in a week? This is ridiculous. Oh, now 250. It's an obnoxious class, but you learn so much and you draw so much. It was a fantastic class. And then I think the argument of illustration versus animation. My first job was at an animation studio, and so it was interesting being in that world with animators, but coming into it with a sequential artist brain. And what I learned is that if you want to be have a fantastic foundation on understanding art and composing and making really cool art, Sequential is a great place. And it also offers you a fantastic opportunity to learn how to tell a story really, really well. Because we all had to take classes that everything is derived from breaking down stories and learning story arcs and learning how to write something and how do you pace something for it's fantastic, but everything I learned there, it made me think like a writer, which I was like, I don't want to be a writer, I just want to draw stuff. But I love it now because I think of stories as an art form as much as I think of the actual drawing itself. So I love sequel. I think it's a fantastic thing, and that's why I think the comic is like my favorite medium of storytelling of all, because you have prose, you've got fantastic writing, you've got fantastic art, and they make a beautiful marriage together. So.
And if you have control issues like me, you can do everything yourself with comics if you really want to, so go for it.
Yeah.
We have another question that asks, is it hard to find work while you're still in school or when you graduate school? I guess maybe which is harder. And is it true what they say about getting work is mostly about who you know and who you're connected with, other than going to a studio and applying for a job?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's the.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that I went to actually, of all the things, CCNX, just all the way to Burbank, I would have never gotten the job I have right now. It was very hard because sometimes it's not the industry is just not looking for work, and maybe you have to just see who you talk to. There's just the smaller people that is not advertised as much as the ones that get the job, in my case.
Yeah. I have, honestly, the biggest thing that I got that SCAD didn't teach me is the importance of making friends. Because as soon as I graduated, I started talking with a few artists here and there, with some of my former classmates, and I got invited to a little drawing group. And from there, I made friends with more people. And I'm only going to tell you one story from there, but there are a few professional artists in this group who knew a bunch of the editors on Editors Day, Topical. And what they did for me and a friend of mine, they found out that we signed up, and they went and they were hanging out with the editors pre-Editors Day, and we're like, hey, look out for my buddy John. He's got a skeleton comic that he's looking to put somewhere. And before I was even in the room, people knew who I was, and that's how I got started talking to publishers about my book. That's how that happened, because I knew somebody who was a friend of mine, and they did something nice for me. And honestly, like, I think the entire industry is kind of built on that. Like, have resources, know people, email them, be nice. That's really important, because you're like, I can think of one guy off the top of my head that sent in an unsolicited submission, aka a resume, and it worked. And that was Trad Moore, and that was The Strange Tale of Luther Strode.
Yeah.
And that dude is so good that that's the only reason that happened. Like,
Exactly.
he was so unless you're like that tier coming out, like you're coming in hot with something really good, most people are gonna brush you off unless you make friends with them first. Like, you want to like become buddies with somebody who's buddies with an editor, and then when that editor tells them, hey, somebody bailed on the last issue of this comic, if Phil an artist, they can call you up and be like, hey bud, send a quick portfolio over, and then you have a gig, like that kind of thing. There's Trad.
Exactly, yeah. So
yeah,
this is obvious why this worked out for him.
That's why that worked. Despite how violent this is, I met him once. He's a real nice guy. He was a cool guy.
Sweetheart. I think it's my favorite thing about Trevor is just he does this violent art. But you meet him,
nice guy.
and it's just like the sweetest person you could ever meet in your life.
Yeah, make friends with Trad Moore, then you'll be famous. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
It's so true, though. Just, like, it matters who you know, and then also when you're in contact with people, like, how available are you making yourself? Because I can't tell you how many, like, color flat jobs that I've got by being on Twitter in the middle of night, and there's some panicked person who's just like, this is due, like, 3 days from now, somebody needs to help me out, and I'm just like, Dropbox me the files, we're good to go. And then they never talk to you again, but you get the money in PayPal, so it's cool. Yeah, anything else you guys want to add to that question? Otherwise, I think we got a couple more. Let me take a look.
Can't believe there are more than 3 people watching this, and they all have questions.
Yes. Oh, here we go. Why did you guys choose SCAD? I guess I kind of want to know, too. What other schools were you guys looking at when you applied? Or was this it?
That is a funny story, actually.
Well, yours is probably funnier than mine.
Oh no, mine was like, honestly, my application at SCAD was a last minute panic. I was supposed to like do a course. My parents told me like, oh yeah, let's send you to like Europe so you can take like a 6-month course and then you can go to whatever college you want. And then out of the blue, my dad like, I've been thinking about it, and this is like I haven't applied to any college because I was just said like, okay, I'm gonna go to another continent just to like get a small course on art. And my dad is like, I've been thinking about it. Italy's too far away. So, yeah, you need to get in a college now. And SCAD was like the only college I applied. I did not apply for anything else, and luckily I got accepted. I knew about it because sometimes they actually send people who already studied at SCAD to other countries. Like they send like a student from Colombia, of course, to Colombia to talk to other people about SCAD. And that's how I knew about it. And as soon as I saw Sequential, I'm like, this is my calling. This is what I want to do. And that's how it was.
Yeah, I guess I never really think about how much of an outreach that SCAD really has, because somebody usually says it during graduation, but how many countries are represented at SCAD? It's like all of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I got a good anecdote about why I wound up going to SCAD. Because even though we've mentioned that SCAD is one of 5 or however many colleges that offer Sequential, it is one of 1 that offers Sequential and an athletic program. And with athletics comes athletic scholarships, because something that we didn't mention about when we were talking about is art school worth it or not, is it is extremely expensive. And I was incredibly fortunate to come from a high school with a prestigious like cross-country distance running program. I wasn't the best on the team by any means, but when you're applying to art school for athletics, you're going to be pretty high up on the tier list when you're coming from any prestigious athletic program. And that is exactly why, because I knew it would be expensive to go to art school. And I knew I had one shtick that could get it less expensive, and that was running as fast as I could for as long as I could, and it benefited me massively. And that's why I picked it, because it's the only, I'm pretty sure it's the only art school that has an athletic program at all. And though it doesn't have like a big one, and they've been cutting away at it, they need it, I think, to be considered like a certain type of school, like university versus institute versus college. And they want that big, scary title. So they're going to have athletics. They're not going to cut it all. And my sport was cheap. So it worked out. Honestly, that is 100% why I picked it, because I knew I could run around and pay for school.
I have a really, like, that's funny because that's kind of similar to like what drew me to SCAD, is the athletic program as well. So on top of being an artist, like, I was an athlete in high school playing football and lacrosse, and SCAD had a lacrosse team.
Wow.
And so like my junior year, when I was like looking at schools, SCAD was considered one of them, because I was like, oh, art school, I could like study comic books, that's kind of cool. I was like, oh, and I can play lacrosse. And again, like you said, like, you might not be the best in the team, but like you go to an art school and you rise to the top.
Best on the team.
And but see, and then the fun thing was, like, I was coming down my junior year, and like I was rolling off of a state. We went to the state finals that year on my lacrosse team as I was a junior. So I'm coming down to SCAD with this like big head of like, I'm a defender playing for the lacrosse team. Went to state, like talking to the coaches, and so like we were talking through athletic scholarship options. And then I blew out my knee. And so like SCAD, then I started looking at other colleges. I looked at Minneapolis College of Art and Design, which has a comic art program, but they literally just take SCAD's program and it's like SCAD Lite, because they're such a young program. And I was also looking at Columbus College of Art and Design, but that was just for illustration, and then School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. And the funny thing was that I didn't think I could go to SCAD because I didn't have an athletic scholarship, so I was kind of pursuing SVA. And then I had one piece of my artwork go into this Ohio Governor's Award program thing, and like because of that, SVA gave me like their presidential scholarship, which was weird because I didn't ask them to. They just sent me. They're like, "Oh, you did this. We'll give you this to come here." And so then I just took that to SCAD and said, "Hey, they're gonna do this. Can you match it?" And they said yes. And so I was like, "All right, I'm going to Georgia."
Nice.
Beautiful. Yeah,
So like that was
very
how
important.
that worked for me. So I was like, I want to go down south. My family's from the south, and I'd rather be hanging out on the the slow pace of the beach rather than Manhattan. So.
Yeah, without a doubt. What about you, Kaitlin? How did you end up here?
SCAD was not my first choice, surprisingly. My parents were not too keen on me going to art school, and I was actually applying for University of Texas at Dallas to get into their video game design program. And I didn't get into that program, but I got into SCAD's program with a scholarship. And so my parents were like, okay, fine, you can go to art school. And that's how I ended up there. I had no idea about the school until I was a senior in high school, and one of my friends since second grade applied to SCAD, and we ended up going to SCAD together. So that's how I ended up there.
And I'm glad we all did.
Yeah, I made some great friends at SCAD that I'll never forget.
I'm so glad I went there because it also wasn't my first choice either. I wanted to go to Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida. I think I wanted to study animation there so badly. I don't know if they do it this way anymore, but their application process requires you to apply into a major instead of just generally to the school. Like, I guess there are two parts of it. So they only take like maybe 70 people into their animation major. I could be wrong. This is how they did it like back how many years ago now? So old. But they accepted me to the school overall, but they didn't bring me into the animation program, so they said I could still go to a Ringling, but I had to pick something different, which I thought was really odd. So didn't end up going there, went to SCAD instead, and I was kind of cranky about it, but you can't beat Savannah. It's so good. And I met all of you there, so it was obviously wonderful. Ew. Aw. think we have time for one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this one. Since we have social media at our fingertips, or we just have, things to distract us like Netflix, or your phone sitting next to you, or your computer that you should be using for reference, how do you focus on working and not be distracted?
Basically have it. There are different apps and add-ons on your computer stay focused, and it basically blocks Tumblr, blocks any clickbait plays that will distract me for a certain period of time. Also, I actually have my desk set up as an L, so just on I work on one side and I keep my computer on the other, just so I don't feel tempted to use it unless it's the occasional reference. But if it gets too much that as soon as you get on the computer you get distracted, just print the reference and then you'll just have it on your hand and you don't have to worry about the computer. And also just recommend either put in a podcast or music, just to keep your mind not going on anything else that is your work.
Yeah, I've heard about some of those applications too, especially when we were in school, everybody's like, I have to have this stuff on my computer locked down, otherwise I'm going to get nothing done.
Mm-hmm.
What's your secret, Colin?
I think the one benefit to being more traditional is that it's a lot easier to just shut a laptop and put it out of my reach, or take my phone and literally put it out of the way if it's a problem. But I think when it comes to being distracted, so I'm a little bit of a workaholic. And by a little bit I mean I have a large amount. So what it boiled down to me, it was a decision I had to make. That's if I want to be at this point, or if I want to be here, that means I have to do this. It's not going to get done unless I do it, and so you just need to do it. And so a lot of times I have to kind of boot camp myself and tell myself well, suck it up. Yeah, I know you're tired, but did you want to get that done? Then get it done. So I do good cop, bad cop with myself. That's kind of how I have to do it. But also for me, it's having other people to help me stay focused, keeping me accountable for it. So for me, for instance, in the evenings when I come home from work, I'll be working on my comics and stuff, and I'll go work in the living room with my wife while she's doing some freelance too. So having the two of us together, if she notices I'm on my computer and I'm looking at Facebook, she can be hey, I just need to get that panel done, and I'll just shut it and be you're right, I do. You're right, I do. Just having her be able to call me out on it is actually super helpful. To just keeping me focused on task, even when my mind wants to go crazy. So.
John Golden, what do you do?
Well, as a man who has borderline crippling ADD, I've had to try a lot of things. And recently I've found something that works. I forgot to mention, a man who's crippling ADD that's I don't need no pills to fix my brain. Something I found that works really well is waking up early, which nobody wants to hear me say. Because my old strategy, I work a day job until my comic stuff picks up. But it doesn't start till the middle of the day. I work from noon till 6 or 7 approximately. And what I used to do is I was I'll come home and be tired, and I'll be too tired for my brain to be flying all over the place. And that works, but I'm also exhausted, and I take too long to work. But waking up early, I know nobody wants to hear me say this, but if you can get yourself in a schedule where you're waking up early and maybe even possibly doing a little bit of exercise in the morning, you can kind of kickstart yourself. It works great. I used to sleep in until 10 and go to work at noon. Now I wake up at 6:37, and I'll go for a jog for 15 minutes or something. Because when you wake up to do something, you're more likely to sit down and do it, is what I found. Because when you get home, you're I gotta get home and work. But when you wake up, it's just smelling salts. You're up. The first thing on your mind is, I'm gonna do this before I have to do anything else. Like, I'm going to get this in early. Like, I'm going to knock it out. And it makes you feel good about yourself when you do that, too. Like, it's very rewarding to get something done at the beginning of the day. And that motivates me and helps me stay focused. That, like, works for me. And as far as, like, getting distracted by social media, I usually just cram a podcast in, put my phone on airplane mode, and just, like, shut the laptop. Like, if I need reference, I'll pull it from a book. Just, like, you know, just stare at the thing, just, like, be jazzed about it, be excited to do it, instead of, like, I'm going to work while I do this, or, like, have Netflix open while I work. Like, because I think that's what a lot of people do that kind of screws them, is, like, I want to, like, have this open while I do this. Like, because I do that, too. That's how I watch anything. But, yeah, that's, my advice is, wake up early and go for a run or do some push-ups, guys. Makes you feel good.
I'm exactly the same way. I'm glad that you brought it up. Yeah, I didn't realize how much it helped me, like, get on a schedule too, like being married and have my husband who, like, works, you know, from 7 till whenever in the afternoon. So if I'm still passed out when he's gonna go to work, you better believe he doesn't let that happen. He's just like, you need to get up right now, drag me out by my ankles, get started. But yeah, if you don't have anything else going on in the morning, get to work, because you're gonna be so tired when you come back home from work. You have no idea. It's the worst. So, yep. Push-ups, I don't know. Drawing comics, okay. I'll do that in the morning.
They're kind of big. Or stay small.
You know. And Kaitlin, reveal the secrets to the universe.
Well, I mean, as much as people don't suggest not having Netflix open, I have 2 screens on my computer. So, since I started working digitally again, in order to keep myself away from, like, social media, I'll put on, like, a Game of Thrones marathon, and since I've already seen Game of Thrones over and over, I can just listen to it while I work, and that keeps me focused on one screen. And sometimes I'll look up and see somebody getting stabbed or something, but, I mean, it keeps me away from social media, and anything to keep me away from social media helps me a lot.
Yeah, I also have the screen on the other side, and that's really nice, but I realize I get distracted sometimes if it's something I haven't seen before, or it's like a super, you have to pay attention to this movie. I recently made the mistake of watching, it's on Netflix, it's called Hush. It's a horror movie, which is very good, but the problem is there's so many subtitles because it's about a woman who's deaf, so she's, like, signing, and then there are also subtitles, and, like, I'm not hearing anything, and then I'm watching it the whole time, so don't watch that one. Throw on some, like, Law and Order SVU or something that's just, like, really repetitive, and,
yeah, repetitive stuff is really good to have on.
The Office is mine, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's Play, listening to Let's Play usually work aside from the occasional, like, either breakdown or laugh attack that they have. Usually just something I can hear on the background also.
Mm-hmm. That, or sometimes I like to do streaming, which is fun. It can help you, like, stop focusing on the fact that it's work, because you can be talking to other people too, but that can also get distracting if what they're saying is more interesting than what you're doing. And if you talk with your hands a lot, you're not going to draw, like me.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I find stream more like I cannot get distracted because these people are watching me work, and it's just be very rude of me just to, like, go do other stuff while they're waiting for me to watch me work. So focusing is just a big motivator for me to just work on my piece really fast and as fast as I can.
Yeah, because they will know if you're dicking around and you're not doing what you're supposed to.
Yeah.
All right, I think that does it for tonight, unless you guys have any other things that you wanted to add. Worldly wisdom.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving up your Friday night, guys. This is awesome. I'm really glad that I get to see you all again, first and foremost. But, yeah, a lot of solid advice about Editor's Day. So I hope that everybody who tuned in tonight learned a lot, and anybody who's watching later, you can look forward to the next stream, fingers crossed, if I can rope this last group of people in to do a third stream, which would be about back to the first questions again, since we already covered Editor's Day. There's nothing to talk about now. But yeah, I'll do one more stream sometime next week, and after that, I'm trying to get some production design people. So if anybody listening knows any more production design people or fashion people, they're the hardest to track down for some reason. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.